ISKCON Unity Founder Church All glories to the Simple Devotees. All glories to the Simple Devotees. All glories to the Simple Devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru 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 Shishya Prabhupada. Ganatimirandasya Ganagana Salakya Shakshura Vitamya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedante Swantanamne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachami Nivasesa Sunivani Paskachari Satarina Sri Chaitanya Prabhu Vistam Stapitam Yamutare Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sriyuta Parakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sham Sri Rupam Sagrayatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitantam Surivam Sadvaitam Savanatam Paridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitansha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Nigatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamani Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhesha Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 18, text 12. Kindly repeat. Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvair Gunais Tatra Samasate Sura Haro Abhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna Manoratena Sati Davato Bahi Yasyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana.
Yasyasti bhakti bhagavadya kinchana.
Sarvai gunais tatra samasate sura. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Manoratena satidavato vahi. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana. Sarvai gunais tatra samasate sura. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahaguna. Manoratena satidavato vahi. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana. Sarvai gunais tatra samasate sura. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Manoratena satidavato vahi. Next.
Yasyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana.
Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati kinchana.
Sarvai gunais tatra samasate suraha.
Sarvai gunas tatra samasate sura.
Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna.
Harava bhaktasya kuto mahaguna.
Manoratena satidavato bhavi.
Manoratena satidavato vahi.
Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati kinchana.
Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati kinchana.
Sarvai gunai tatra samasate sura.
Sarvai gunas tatra samasate sura.
Harava bhaktasya kuto mahaguna.
Harava bhaktasya kuto mahaguna.
Manoratena satidavato vahi.
Manoratena satidavato vahi.
Yasyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana.
Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati kinchana.
Sarvai gunas tattva samasate sura.
Sarvai gunas tatra samasate sura.
Harava bhaktasya kuto mahaguna.
Harava bhaktasya kuto mahaguna.
Manoratena satidavato vahi.
Manoratena satidavato vahi.
Let's see here. Yasya
Yasya
of whom?
Of whom?
Or may I just question, is translation going on there? Yes, simultaneous, okay. Asti,
asti
there is. Bhakti,
bhakti
devotional service. Bhagavati,
bhagavati
to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Akinchana,
kinchana.
without any motive. Sarvai,
Sarvai
with all. Gunai, good qualities. Tatra, there, in that person. Samasate, reside. Suraha, all the demigods. Haro, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhaktasya, of a person who is not devoted. Kuta, where? Mahadguna,
Mahadguna.
good qualities. manoratena, by mental speculation, asati, in the temporary material world,
in the temporary material world,
davatam, who is running, bahi, outside. Translation. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? Translate as a purport. As explained in the next verse, Krishna is the original source of all living entities. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, wherein Krishna says, Mama Vamsa Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manasastani Indriyani Prakriti Istani Karsati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. All living entities are part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore when they revive their original Krishna consciousness, they possess all the good qualities of Krishna in small quantity. When one engages himself in the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, one's heart becomes purified and he immediately understands his relationship with Krishna. He then revives his original quality of Krishna consciousness. In the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 8, there is a description of some of the qualities of devotees. For example, Sri Pandit Haridas is described as being very well behaved, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, and grave. In addition, he spoke very sweetly. His endeavors were very pleasing. He was always patient. He respected everyone. He always worked for everyone's benefit. His mind was free of duplicity, and he was completely devoid of all malicious activities. These are all original qualities of Krishna, and when one becomes a devotee, they automatically become manifest. Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, says that all good qualities become manifest in the body of a Vaishnava, and that only by the presence of these good qualities can one distinguish a Vaishnava from a non-Vaishnava. Krishnadas Kaviraj lists the following 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. 1. He is very kind to everyone. 2. He does not make anyone his enemy. 3. He is truthful. 4. He is equal to everyone. 4. No one can find any fault in him. 6. He is magnanimous. 7. He is mild. 8. He is always clean. 9. He is without possessions. 10. He works for everyone's benefit. 11. He is very peaceful. 12. He is always surrendered to Krishna. 13. He has no material desires. 14. He is very meek. 15. He is steady. 16. He controls his senses. 17. He does not eat more than required. 18. He is not influenced by the Lord's illusory energy. 19. He offers respect to everyone. 20. He does not desire any respect for himself. 21. He is very grave. 22. He is merciful. 23. He is friendly. 24. He is poetic. 25. He is expert. And 26. He is silent. End of purport. Om Agnata Ganamashya Ganamilasa Shakshurun Militam Yanasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Prai Krishna Prishna Vitarai Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Svantanamana Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Prachana Nimasi Sasinivani Paskatyari Satarana. So the verse was Yas Yasti Bhakti Bhagavati Akinshana Saivar Gunais Tatra Samasate Suraha Harava Bhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna Manoratena Satidavato Mahi. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities, even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives. He must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? Hare Krishna. So here, as I got it here, it's Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, describing the universe, or the Varshas, and the different inhabitants of the various Varshas, and who they are worshipping, and what prayers are presenting to these, the worshipable deities. Because these prayers is also as a philosophical explanations. And they're full of the philosophy and the glorification of the Lord. So here it has been described that the importance of association with devotees, and then how do we know how is a devotee? Well, he wears tilak. They say. Of course, there could be maybe a devotee who don't wear a tilak. Not visibly. Maybe we should have the tilak in our heart, stamped with devotion to Krishna. Because otherwise we could also just wear tilak because it looks good in the devotee association, and it may make good business also. Maybe in India we find there's many of life members of ISKCON, and then the motivation could be, yes, it's good to be a life member, then I get more business. So that way, there can be various side motives for the sake of maybe putting on a tilak or fitting in order to benefit one's own business. Okay, here, so in one sense, here, the true devotee, because here in the previous verse it indicated that the good devotee, the one who's worthy of associating with here, is kind of is described here or is indicated here. Well, that's giving the difference between the devotee and the non-devotee. And then it's interesting, he said that the devotee will have all the good qualities of the demigods. And of course, sometimes, of course, we may wonder about the demigods to some degree, but that is not really our position to criticize or question them in that way. But we have Indra, he has a very challenging task of being the king, the head of all the demigods. And sometimes he gets into difficulty in various ways due to his attraction to women and other things. Still, here stated, the demigods in general, and as a principle, has all good qualities, the devotees, as we could say, whatever good qualities of the demigods have, that the devotees will have. At the same time, we can see that the devotees, we can say the devotees of the highest caliber will have these qualities. There may be devotees who are not so progressive, always at the beginning stage, like in the third canto. In the third canto, Kapila speaks to his mother and he describes devotional service. And in that description, in the description he describes how there's devotional service in the free modes of material nature. So the devotional service is not in the free modes, but the practitioner may be influenced by the free modes of material nature. And because that influence is there by the modes, various characteristics may manifest that may not be fully desirable for pure devotional service. There is also mentioned, and that's a point made, what's that now? I read it first time in Bhagavad Gita. There's a 9th chapter, the last 9, 11. There's a verse, and in the purport, Prabhupada says that if I worship the deities in the temple, but don't properly worship other living entities, then one's worship, as we can say, has no value. It is also indicated there by Kapila Devi. He says, worshipping the deity but not respecting other living entities or other devotees, and living entities mentioned, it's like pouring ghee into ashes. Of course, so we make a fire sacrifice, and the fire is blazing, and we pour ghee as offerings with mantras into the fire. In that way we feed the Supreme Lord. So as long as the fire is going on and we pour the ghee, there's a meaning to it. The Lord accepts it. But if the fire is already gone and it's only ashes and we pour ghee on the ashes, what is the use? Because the sacrifice is over. So in that way it was giving a description of worshipping the deity in the temple, but not properly or respecting other living entities, not seeing how they are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus disrespecting them, then that worship will not really have any effect either, as indicated there. And here is indicated, yes, the living entities, okay, they are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and such, they in small qualities, as stated here, well, the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and thus inherently they have these qualities, but if you're not the devotees, then it's covered over. So these good qualities will not manifest, at least not in fullness. Or indicated here is one who is not a devotee cannot have any good qualities, and that's like a question. There's many nice people, and sometimes we devotees think that the devotees are really tough characters to be around. We're good at finding fault with each other sometimes. So then you go out and see that it looks like as if the people out there are so nice. Maybe it's because you see at a distance. When you get close, that is a challenge also. We have the challenge of being devotees and being, in one sense, closer to each other that way. And then the challenge, and maybe that is great in a way, because then in that little bit closer association, and where we actually render service together and like that, there we are tested. There we are tested how much are we actually progressing in our spiritual life, and how tolerant we are, or how full of all good qualities we are. Whereas if we just superficially and occasionally a little bit touch bases and smile at each other, then everything looks good. So we have the experience of being in a Sankirtan van. And they travel around and you're very close to each other. Of course, that's maybe for the man, the male body, the male psychology, we can work quite okay like that. But in one sense, we could say if it worked and it was fairly good relationships like that, maybe because the focus of the activities is so clear on devotional service. Where we were at least in the Sankirtan van, and the Sankirtan vans are still traveling around with devotees, preaching, making Harinam, book distribution and like that. Maybe that it's worth a fairly peaceful relationships, much because the goal was very clear. We were together to glorify the Lord, to distribute Prabhupada's books, and to make Harinam and like that. And then there's not so much place for false ego, pride and prestige. That we can say we won in interest. And because we won in interest, therefore other things are how do you say, going to the side. But if you're not one in interest, of course, if you're not together too close, we may not notice it, but when we get closer, and we actually have to do something together, then this may then show up, will surface. A little bit like making ghee. That's maybe a nice example. Ghee, you take the butter, and you put it in the pot. And of course, you shouldn't heat up the ghee too quick. Slowly, you warm it up, and then it starts to melt. And then as it goes on, we raise the temperature a little bit, but not too much, as if you're going to make ghee. But in any case, then when you have that, then what we call the impurities, so that was not the ghee, that other solids of the butter comes to the surface. Because if you make a ghee a little bit hotter, then this kind of burns something, and then it puts a taste on the ghee, and that's not good. Just in case you're going to make ghee, you know that. But the point is that there's some heat, and then the things come to the surface, and then you have to take away these things. You don't let them stay there. And then eventually you have the pure ghee, the butter, the pure essence of the butter in the form of ghee, and that's most valuable oil cooking ingredient you can have. So that way we are together. We've been slowly warmed up in devotional service and association with the devotees, and that way, in that association, we start to melt. And then in that we melt, and then maybe that what's not meant to be there may come to the surface, so we can see it, capture it, and hopefully discard it, or be aware of it, so we don't carry with us we shouldn't carry with us these impurities, but rather leave them behind. Of course, if you're making ghee, then there may be impurities, and you may take them because it's mixed a little with ghee, and then maybe put in the sabji, and that can be a good way also. So maybe there's qualities, material qualities in us that is not exactly devotional like that, but then if they can be used in serving the Lord, that is good. So then the question is, we are born with certain qualities, with certain gunas, and we may not fully be able to transcend everything, because at least not at the present state or beginning state. So we carry qualities with us, but then if we can somehow or other dovetail these qualities with the service of the Lord, that is good. But they should be dovetailed in a positive way, so that they don't become a hindrance for devotional service. If you have a managerial capability and managers, they may be sharp, and sometimes it looks to me, and they make judgments. They have to make judgments. So it may. But still, we need some managers to manage things, big projects. Well, this is a nice size project. And if we go to Mayapur, we have the TVP. It's a wonderful or miraculous. It's going on, and it's how to manage this whole thing. So you need. You need some qualities that fits to the task. At the same time, but then at some point, when the purification goes on, we may also have to leave things behind that maybe it's been useful at one point. I say management, no. But at a later point, maybe it may also have to be left behind if we enter into the higher levels of pure devotional service, free of all unwanted things. What it says, so here it's pure devotional. So we can say we have devotional service. We can have devotional service of the Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter, if it's verse 22, where it says, whatever you do, whatever you offer and give away, as well as all austerities you make, make it as a sacrifice for me. We take what we have, we take what we do, and we offer it to Krishna. But then we have the 9 process of devotional service as described here in the purport from the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Parasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasham Sakyam Atmanivedanam. You can say this is pure pure devotional activities. You don't know?
I don't know what that means.
No? Let's see if you have time. Welcome.
Just the translation of those words.
Okay, good. Good. Shravanam. We hear about Krishna, we speak about, we glorify Krishna. We remember Krishna, Smaranam, remembrance of Krishna. Parasevanam, we serve the lotus feet of the Lord, we serve the deity. Serving the deity Arshanam, we make worship on the altar. Vandanam, we make prayers, we pray to the Lord in various ways. Dasyam, we are serving position, serving in various ways. Sakyam, we become friendly, we make friendship between us and friendship to the Lord. And then Atmanivedana, we full self-surrender, inner soul surrender to the Lord. Okay. You're new here today, huh? Yesterday, okay. Okay, good. Okay, so then we can say this is a pure devotional, this is definitively pure devotional activities. And then, to engage in this pure devotional service, we don't really need material skills. And we don't need to be materially qualified like that. We maybe even could be in an animal body. There's some stories like that animals has been listening to the Bhagavatam, and that being qualified and taking human birth and becoming devotees of the Lord. But then we engage in these activities, we hear about the Lord, we speak about the Lord, we remember the Lord, we contemplate, I speak something and then you take it with you home and you contemplate it and what did they say and what does it mean? And then then the next question is, and how does it apply in my life? And then in that way we can progress and say, taking it, how does it apply, can it apply in my life? And then actually try to apply it in our life. And that we can say indicated here is, let's see here, how I got it. There was, okay, there's a point made here. Oh, sorry. Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, says that all good qualities become manifest in the body of a Vaishnava. Okay, and that only by the presence of these good qualities can one distinguish a Vaishnava from a non-Vaishnava. So he actually puts a demand on us as devotees. So we can say, oh, I'm a devotee, so it doesn't matter what I do, what character I have, I'm doing it for Krishna. But then here it's indicating that when we act, a way of, what should we say, we make then claim to be a Vaishnava, a good Vaishnava, elevated Vaishnava, maybe things like that way. But the question is that do we actually have the qualities that we would expect by such a personality? Because one thing is something for ourselves to endeavor for, to achieve. Another thing is for us to what we want to achieve. Another thing is a way of differentiating, who is who, and in the Sri Upadeshamrita, there's this description of how I should relate with devotees, loving exchanges, but then also understand who is who, so it's a devotee. So it makes a little bit of differentiation. It's someone who just comes and listens, says Hare Krishna, we will mentally respect. Someone who's initiated and worship the deity, we will pay our obeisances, humble obeisances. And then if there's someone who is engage in uninterrupted devotional service. And then it says, who free from the tendency to criticize others. Such a devotee one should basically take shelter over or serve and associate with. So that's giving a description so we can get an idea who has the adhikar, the quality that actually indicating pure devotion, and then take association there. Because he is giving, then Krishna Das Kaviraj is giving here, he gives a list of 26 qualities of the devotees, and that's a big chapter. That's a big chapter in itself. Books has been written about just that. And we may then think, how is this possible? No one can, he said, number 5, no one can find any fault in him. So of course, Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said, if you want to find fault in me, you can find fault in me also. Well, maybe Prabhupada's humble position, where some may find fault in him, but not really seeing his transcendental, seeing the deeper purpose behind his activities. Okay, then I thought of, then is someone like Yudhishthira Maharaj, Ajatasattu, for whom, something like someone whom his enemy is not born. Or of course, some was enemies of him, but he was not enemies of them. So he had no enemies. There maybe were enemies, but he didn't see them as enemies. Of course, Duryodhana, what a guy, what a character. Duryodhana was a cousin brother, was really nasty. But Yudhishthira Maharaj did not see as an enemy, so that we can take it in this way also. He is, no one can find any fault in him. So you may be able to find fault, but the devotees, in general, it's more difficult to find in a good devotee. If you're a little bit qualified, the good devotee has good qualities, and we can say that's a basic principle. And thus, such devotees with good qualities, we can take association with. And if we think there's a question of qualities, then maybe we respect more, a little bit in the distance, still seeing that he is someone trying to be a devotee. Anyone, we can say, anyone trying to be a devotee is the most worshipful personality. He may or may not come fully everywhere, but that's just someone trying to be a devotee, trying to serve. That is glorious, so that we should respect, honor. Of course, easy to find the faults. Of course, sometimes the guru, the king, the father, the king, the guru should find fault in the disciples, the children, or in the citizens to correct. But just for the sake of correcting, and then we can say, what is the intention? To find fault with pulling down, or finding fault and correcting in order to lift up? Because someone maybe thinks that I'm trying to lift up the person, therefore finding fault. But actually, we have to see also, is it our position? Okay, so if you're with these categories, then you actually have a duty also to find fault, give correction, so that progress can be made. Okay, Hare Krishna, this is the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, keep that in mind. Can go back and read and study and reflect on the qualities given here. And again, we can reflect on that, how it's relate to us, to me, and how can implement it in my life. And that will support my devotion to Krishna. We can say good qualities that support also devotion. That's what's bad qualities, that what doesn't support devotion. And then something here with the materialist, we may have all kind of seeming to have all kind of good qualities, but what is his or her intention, goal? is not to serve Krishna, not to progress, but rather actually enjoy or be prominent in the material world. And this material world that's indicated here, everything has a beginning and end. So the good qualities maybe has a beginning, may stay a while, and may get covered over again. So whereas the devotee's aim is transcendence, is to please the supreme transcendent personality of Godhead, and thus his qualities are different. The good qualities, again, they will not leave. They will stay there. Because it's not some artificial impositions. It's a soul's actual qualities that's indicated here, that we, as devotees, a little bit may be able to manifest in our character due to us being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So that's because these good qualities of the Lord will also manifest, should manifest. It's stated here that it comes automatically. I have a little bit difficulty with that automatically. We don't have to do anything. Just chant Hare Krishna, space out. Then someone said, well, it says automatically, but not mechanically. And that maybe makes a small difference. And just it's it's not a mechanical process, it's a personal process. It's a life, it's a soul process. It's not a it's not a mechanical, but it's automatical, but not mechanical. So thus we can keep an eye on it, but keep the focus. The focus is our devotional service, engagement in devotional service. Okay, Hare Krishna. Maybe you have some question or comment. Yes, Matani.
Two things. One, I like to think of Prabhupada's use of the word automatically,
Yeah.
organically.
Organically, okay.
That it, because as we progress in devotional service, then organically these qualities start to develop in us.
Oh.
And like that, we don't have to do anything. But if we do the right thing and if we progress, then these things will develop. So I like to think of Prabhupada's use of the word automatically as meaning organically, or naturally they come about.
Actually, yes.
As we make it natural. But this word Manoratena is quite an interesting word because what it literally means is the chariot of the mind.
Okay.
So Prabhupada uses it to mean mental speculation, but the word literally means the chariot of the mind. And I would, if you could speak a little on how being on the chariot of the mind negates or makes the qualities or the good qualities of someone who isn't a devotee subject to change without notice. You mentioned in the Sankirtan band, because everybody had the same goal, then even if there were problems, they were all worked out because everybody wanted to go to the same place. But if everybody's on the chariot of the mind, then they become unreliable.
Yeah.
And so their good qualities also become unreliable.
Well, sometimes I think in mental speculations, with this Jnana Priyasam verse, you say you're giving up mental speculation, and then you stay where you are, but you engage in the devotional process. But then I think this mental speculation turned to make it relevant to modern time, also thinking in terms of material speculation. Speculating as to how to profit oneself and others. Then maybe mental speculation in the philosophical way is actually a more elevated position. But of course, mental speculation, if you're on the chariot of the mind, of the material mind, of course, the mind, the controlled mind is the best of friends. The one who controls the mind is the best of friends. Okay, we keep that in mind. For one who's failed to do so, it's the worst of enemies. So that way, the uncontrolled mind, of course, how can unless we know what's the goal of life, how can a mind stay controlled? But then it said, if then there in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita it says that sorry. If one has controlled the mind, the super soul is already reached. Because that's a super soul, and then we have Bhagavan, Krishna. So that way, if you truly control the mind, we've truly got the mind control purified, rectified, and put in the straight direction, then actually the super soul is already reached. If we fail to do so, the mind will be the worst of enemies. And then eventually, it may look good now, but then if you don't keep it controlled, purified, rectified, at least in this lifetime, as we have this material setting to work with, we may be vulnerable to whatever, again being covered. And I think that's what happens also then with this materialists, the good materialists. But then they may look good, but then if you scratch it a little bit on the surface, what will come out? So to say. Okay, that's what I want to say. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
So you said about this heating up the butter, making ghee, and then these impurities come up. So then also on the end, the bhakti yoga process, purifies this organically. So when the impurities come up, they kind of maybe overwhelm us a little bit, but overwhelm us. Okay. Yeah. So we should just follow bhakti yoga process, and organically they will go, and we shouldn't act on them.
On the act, you mean take action to correct, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
You mean we shouldn't act on the impurities?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, no, we shouldn't. We should take them away.
Yeah.
Or purify, where there may be material desires we have. If you live as a renunciate, that's, if you, otherwise you may get married and have a family life and live more according to Dharma, according to religious principles, deal with your material desires for the sake of purification, rectification, so that eventually we can leave it behind. So we act on them, we remove it, so so that at the end we can have the pure essence of pure devotional service, or unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in due course of time. Yes.
So removing them is like acting properly, acting on them properly, so it goes with time.
Yeah, when acting on them. Well, if you can, the impurities in the ghee is nice. You can take it and put it. These impurities, they shouldn't be in the ghee, but you can take them out and you can put them in the sabji, and it makes a kind of nice addition to the sabji. But they should get out of the ghee, okay? So I thought that with the manager, for example, you have some quality, capacity, and it may not be actually in of themselves devotional service, but you can use them somehow or another to serve, still use them somehow or other to serve the Lord, and that way we can purify and rectified in due course of time, organically. And I like composting, that's great too. Because you take all these totally obnoxious things that you don't want to, you can take the worst of worst things, more or less, what you don't want to tap, but you put it in the compost, mix it with a little bit the other things, and then the organic work. And that, what is very undesirable, actually becomes very desirable. It's an alchemist process, actually, the composting, because it turns something into something that is useless into something very valuable. Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you. Some more questions?
So we can clean anarthas with detachment.
That's one part at least.
Yeah, so detachment is mentally, I mean inside, not the internal, not external.
Yeah, well, you are detached inside and outside, not detached. What do you mean? Well, it's not the externals are not so important. The internal is important. That we maybe being detached, with understanding that everything belongs to Krishna, should be used for Krishna's service. Like our family members or whatever, friends, relatives, etc. Maybe wife, husband, it's my husband to use. Now we have in a way a responsibility of bringing, if we try to hold on to these things as if it's mine, then we may end up as having a trouble, so to say. But understanding, we're living in a relationship, understanding that they are Krishnas, and children, husband, wife, etc., help them to get back to Krishna, hand them back where they actually belongs, where it belongs. So we can say that's detachment. There's things around that we understand to whom it belongs, that we can be detached. Of course, we maybe also practice some austerities, being detached, and fasting on accounts and things like that. That's good. That's recommended. Some, it's not just that, oh, I'm detached inside, but I enjoy it. At least on the Krsna, we undergo some austerity. That it maybe enhances, purifies us, enhances our detachment. We can, getting a higher taste, we say, we maybe control the senses, we restrict the senses from sense gratification, even though the taste for the same subject remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, we are fixed in consciousness. So, the important is to get a higher taste, a good taste for Krishna. And then the other things will not haunt us. But if we don't have that, we maybe try to be detached, but still we will fall back. We may fall back into old patterns due to that sticking desire in our heart. Get a higher desire, better taste. Good. Hare Krishna. I like to end now. We've gone over the time a little bit. Thank you. Okay, Srila Prabhupada,